So now that we've spent a good bit of time studying Joseph Campbell's very useful formula for hero development, we can probably put it to use on pretty much any hero story thrown our way to carry out a concise cultural criticism of that story, right? Wrong. This is a great tool to use to understand a hero's journey and development, but it is important to keep in mind that Campbell was interested in finding similarities in many but not all hero stories and in many but not all cultures. As a matter of fact, he left out a large tradition of Eastern literary culture while conducting his research because it didn't always fit the formula. So let's take a look at a couple of stories that may require a little more individualized approach. We'll start with the legend of the Chinese princess Mao Shan. There was once a powerful but greedy king who had 3 daughters. When the youngest daughter was born, the earth shook, flowers fell from the sky, and the whole world smelled fragrant and beautiful. The girl was born clean and pure without being washed. She was called Mao Shan, which meant wonderful virtue. As she grew older, she lived up to her name, being kind, pure of heart, and virtuous in all things. However, her father was unconcerned with the miraculous circumstances of her birth or her virtuous life. He was only concerned with marrying her off in order to secure more power and riches. Mao Shan, however, vowed not to marry unless doing so would end human suffering. Mao's vow of chastity was very frustrating for her father, so he gave her back-breaking labor and menial work to do to shame her and force her into changing her mind. But Mao was not broken and would not change her mind even though her mother and sisters pleaded with her to do so. Her father was further angered and decided to send her to a monastery where he told the nuns there to give her the hardest jobs they had. Intimidated, the nuns put Mao to work carrying water and working in the garden and all other kinds of difficult work. As a result of Mao's efforts, the monastery flourished. The vegetables bloomed even in the winter, and a miraculous spring formed near the kitchen. Even the animals began helping her with her work. When the king heard of these miracles, he became more furious still and sent soldiers to kill his daughter and all of the nuns. But when the soldiers arrived, a great fog obscured the monastery, and when the fog cleared, Mao Shan was gone. She had been borne away by a great spirit in the form of a tiger who took her to a place known as Fragrant Mountain, where she could drink from the streams and eat the fruit of the trees in peace for the rest of her life. Time passed this way, and many years later the greedy king became very sick. None of his doctors could cure him, and he was dying. One day a monk came to him and said that he could surely cure the king of his illness, but he would need the arms and the eyes of someone whose soul was completely without anger or hatred. The king searched and searched, but was unable to find such a person. Finally, the monk said to the king that he knew where a person was, a person who was capable of reaching nirvana but delayed doing so in order to spend more time saving others from suffering. This kind of a person was called a bodhisattva. The monk said he knew where this bodhisattva was and that this bodhisattva could meet these requirements. So the king sent a messenger to Fragrant Mountain to ask this of this very special person. When the messenger came to Mao, she was very happy to send her arms and her eyes to cure her father. The monk received these and made the medicine. Immediately after taking the medicine, the greedy king was cured. So he and his wife demanded to be taken to Fragrant Mountain to thank the anonymous life-saving bodhisattva. Upon their arrival and realization that Mao was the one who knowingly saved the king's life, both he and his wife fell to their knees sobbing. At this, the air burst into a fragrant aroma, and flowers began to rain from the sky, as they did upon Mao's birth. And Mao Shan began to glow and was transformed into her sacred manifestation, Guan Yin, the goddess of mercy, with 1,000 eyes and 1,000 arms. And her parents began their spiritual journey and built a shrine to their daughter upon the Fragrant Mountain. Now we'll look at 2 stories from the life of the great Irish mythical hero Finn McCool. When God first flooded the world, he decided that one man other than Noah and his family, Fintan, would be saved by being turned into a salmon. After the flood waters subsided, Fintan the salmon resided in a pool of water in Ireland. God decided to put 9 hazel trees around this pool, and each tree grew 9 hazelnuts. And inside all of the hazelnuts was all the wisdom in the universe. As time passed, each of these nuts fell into the pool where the salmon ate them. The salmon continued to live in the pool of water for many years, and during these years people began to repopulate the world, and knowledge of the salmon of wisdom grew. Eventually a druid poet by the name of Finnegas came to live near the water where the salmon lived, because it was his dream to catch and eat the salmon to gain all the knowledge of the universe. About the time that Finnegas was still fishing those waters, a great hero was being born nearby. His name was Finn McCool, and his mother knew he was in great danger, so she ran away with the baby Finn and took him to live and be taught by the druid poet and his wife. One morning when Finn was older, he was sitting with Finnegas while he fished for the salmon of knowledge, when suddenly Finnegas caught a very big fish. He knew at once that such a large fish must be the salmon, so he fought for hours to bring the fish into shore. Finally, by about noon, Finnegas got the fish to the shore, and he found that he was right. He had caught the salmon of knowledge. He told Finn that he was very tired from fighting all morning, so he was going to take a nap to regain his strength. He told Finn to go ahead and cook the fish over a fire for him so that he could eat it for dinner when he got up. So Finn did as he was told, and he put the salmon on a spit over a fire and cooked the fish all day long. Just as the salmon was almost done, some grease from the fish popped in the heat and landed hot on Finn's thumb. Surprised by the pain and the heat, Finn quickly stuck the thumb in his mouth. As he sucked the salmon grease off of his thumb, he was instantly given all the knowledge of the universe and became the greatest man in Ireland. When the poet returned to eat his salmon, he soon realized Finn was acting strangely. When he asked, Finn told him the whole story, and Finnegas realized that Finn had been chosen for this destiny. Many years after gaining the knowledge of the salmon, Finn McCool was thinking on his hatred of the Scottish giants and decided to challenge the giant Benandonner to a battle. He built a causeway from Ulster across the Sea of Scotland by throwing stones into the sea. He started yelling across at Benandonner to come across the causeway and fight him. Now, after some time and many scathing insults, he badgered the giant enough that he came lumbering towards Ulster. Finn was a great man and larger than anyone in the history of Ireland at this point, but as the giant approached, Finn realized that Benandonner was much, much bigger than he realized. At this realization, Finn ran home to his wife Una. When he got home, he explained his mistake, and as he was finishing the story, the ground began to shake at the giant's arrival. While the giant beat on Finn's door, Una dressed him up like a baby and told him to lie down in the corner as if he was asleep. She answered the door, furious, and asked the giant what all the noise was about. Benandonner told her that he was looking for Finn so that he could kill him. Una said that Finn was not home and that the baby was sleeping, pointing to Finn disguised as the baby. So he would need to be quiet and go find Finn somewhere else or come back another time so he would not wake the baby. The giant left quietly and never returned because he thought that with such an enormous baby, Finn McCool must be fearfully huge, and he did not want to fight such a man. As you can see by these stories, not all heroes look the same, and they certainly don't always fit into Campbell's formula. Therefore, it's always necessary to go into any analysis of a story, hero, or character with some thought towards the culture from which the story is being told, and with your eyes open to what kind of things might be being said in order to fully appreciate the story and the elements therein. With that in mind, I want all of you to come up to class tomorrow prepared to write about some of the things that might be important to cultures in which these heroes or some other hero that does not fit Campbell's mold were created. Thanks, and see you all tomorrow.